This is the second time. This is the second time we're running this event, and we're super excited to have everybody back again from the panelists, including James Grant from the Oxford University, who heads up international recruitment for the university. And we also have three students, two who are already enrolled at the university, Shatuki and Nishain, and then Nutara, who has just been admitted to the university and will be going later this fall. So really excited to have everybody on the call. We're gonna run the session as two sessions. So the first part will focus on a student panel where we will talk to the students and talk about the experiences in applying to the university and what life is like at the university as well. And then we'll have James, who will come in and give you the 101 on how to go about making your application. And then finally, as you would have with a real sort of in-person session, we will have breakout rooms at the end where you can then go into the breakout rooms and speak to each of these people individually and ask any more specific questions that you might have. So that's the basic order of play. We're going to just ask that everybody please keep your microphones on mute throughout the session, and your cameras preferably off as well. We will, if you have any specific questions to ask, you can put that in the chat and send it across to us. But otherwise, like I said, also at the end, during the breakout sessions, you will have an option to speak one-on-one and ask questions directly as well. Excellent. Well, look, I don't want to keep us from the proceedings any longer. So we'll start with the panel. As I mentioned, we have Shatuki, Nishain, and Nutara who are joining us for this panel discussion. I won't introduce them. I'm going to ask them to actually introduce themselves. And so, Shatuki, maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're studying, which college you're at, a fun fact perhaps about yourself.
So yeah, hi everyone, I'm Shatuki. I'm at Jesus College and I've just finished my second year studying biology. And the panelists already know this, but a fun fact is that that I'm in a tea plantation right now with some friends and family. So yeah, not very fun, but yeah, it's a current situation. But yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Nishain, you're on mute, Nishain.
Hey, I'm Nishain. I finished my second year engineering at Brasenose College. Really enjoyed my course second year. A fun fact about myself. I would say I get to do Latin Grace 3 times a week at Brasenose, which is really fun. Enjoy doing that. So.
Excellent. Thanks, Nishain. Nutara.
Hi everyone, I'm Nutara. I'll be starting computer science at University College this October, and I'm really looking forward to going to Oxford. Fun fact, I am absolutely crazy about fantasy novels. I read them by the dozen. And that's it.
Excellent. So look, I think as we get into this, guys, I feel like there's a lot of questions. I want to start off with maybe some of the basics about Oxford, and I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with colleges and tutorial systems, etc. Maybe Nutara, you have most recently gone through this process of applying, as a home student from, or rather as a student from Sri Lanka to the university. Do you want to just give us a couple of minutes on, how you learned about the university, and perhaps, what were one or two of the most surprising things for you as you, understood the process to apply?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I've heard of Oxford, obviously, ever since I was a kid. And when I seriously started considering Oxford was actually after I attended this session last year. So thank you guys. And afterwards, I just like this was the first university I looked up and I really wanted to come here. And to be honest, I thought it was going to be impossible because like this is one of the universities people used to say. And I thought like it was like one of those things that don't actually happen except in the books. But I still applied. And to be honest, it wasn't like that hard in a way. I just had to fill out an application and do an admissions test. The admissions test was hard actually, but definitely not impossible. And then I had to do a couple of interviews with Oxford professors where I solved some problems in real time. That's specific to computer science, so I don't know how that works with other subjects. And then it was just a matter of waiting until I got the news, and that was amazing. Like it was a total dream to actually get into the university I really wanted to go to.
That's amazing.
So,
that's super exciting, Natara. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize that you'd made up your mind at the event last year, so that's even more exciting that that was the case. As you were thinking about your kind of college selection, how did you think about that? Did you know there were colleges when you were kind of looking at Oxford?
yeah, I looked up Oxford a little bit and I did see the info about the colleges, but to be honest, at that point, I didn't really believe I could get in. So I was a little casual about that and I just made an open application. So I got assigned to University College at random.
Got it. And can you tell us what you mean by an open application?
Yeah, Oxford is split into like colleges that are basically residential areas and the places where you study. And like there are lots of them. Usually people make an application to a particular college that they really want to go to because the colleges have different features and you can pick the one that suits you. I just made a general application so that they would assign me to the college that had the most open places. So going forward, I would recommend anybody to pick a college that you really like rather than take the easy way that I did.
That's interesting. Actually, I have to say, you know, when I was first looking at this many years ago, I had no idea that there were colleges. And my first reaction on finding out that there were so many colleges, I think it was 36 at the time, was like, wow, you know, how does one decide? Firstly, it was, well, if there are 36 colleges, maybe how difficult can it be to get in? But then also, you know, somehow really, how do you choose? You know, Shatuki and Nishen, you know, for you guys, how did you all choose Jesus and Brasenose? Maybe Shatuki, how did you choose Jesus as the college to go to?
So it's actually an interesting question because I actually applied to New College and not Jesus. So that's kind of a common thing actually that you don't that you get pulled. That's the term. So I picked New College because it had nice greenery and a nice garden. And as a biologist, that was something that, you know, I looked for. But I ended up getting 2 interviews. So it depends on the subject again. But you get a randomly allocated college for your second interview for biology. So my second one was at Jesus. And turns out those tutors liked me more. So they decided to pull me from New. And like what I don't think it's something that you should stress about too much though, because I end up like any college that you end up in, you ended up like loving. And now I like love Jesus and I can't imagine myself anywhere else. And also about the green spaces, there's like uni parks and other beautiful places in Oxford. So, but in terms of things that are important to you, I guess you can look at how many years they provide accommodation for throughout your degree, or how costly the meals are in their halls, and how big the college is. So Jesus is quite small and friendly, which I thought was, you know, quite less intimidating for me in making friends. And it's quite a close-knit community. Whereas some colleges like St. John's, for example, is quite big. And also one good thing is looking at their financial help and funds. So for Jesus, we have a travel fund where you get £400 throughout your degree. That's for like non-academic travel. So that's a good point if that's something you're interested in. But there's and also there's a BuzzFeed quiz, so there's loads of information online that you could look at. But yeah, I actually got pulled, so I didn't end up at NU. But yeah, that's my experience with colleges.
Interesting. Nishan, did you apply specifically to Brasenose, or were you pulled as well?
So I wasn't really aware of I didn't know a lot about colleges when I was applying. So what I did was I went on a summer school to St. John's, where I stayed at St. John's and they took us to Christchurch. So those are the only two colleges that I actually had seen, and those are the only two colleges that were in my mind. So I definitely didn't vibe with Christchurch. So what I did was I applied to St. John's, but I didn't actually get an interview there. So I got a letter from Brasenose saying, come for an interview. So I thought, yeah, I mean, I haven't sort of gone to Brasenose at that point. But when I actually went to the interview, I was really happy because it's like next door to the Radcliffe camera. And yeah, I'm actually really satisfied that I got into Brasenose. So.
Excellent. So that's really interesting. Look, I think, as you think about colleges, there is, colleges that offer specific subjects. So you obviously have to solve for a college that's, offers a subject. I think there's a degree of competitiveness for each of the colleges as well. I mean, did any of you think about how competitive, like you've got these Norrington tables and things like that give you kind of league tables of, how academically sort of challenging perhaps each of the colleges are. Did you solve for that at all, or did any of you solve for that when you're applying? Nuthara, you said you put in an open application, so I guess not. But Nisha and Shatuki, did you guys look at that at all?
No, I only found out about the Norrington table once I got to Oxford, and turns out that new college is actually quite it's quite high up. So apparently, I mean, I'm kind of glad that because I don't really thrive in a high pressure environment, which I guess is counterintuitive because Oxford in itself is quite high pressure. But yeah, I didn't look at that at all. I didn't know, but yeah, I don't know about Nishan.
Yeah, I didn't look at the Norrington table at all when applying. I did look at it afterwards, after getting in, but not before applying. So.
Got it. Okay, look, I think, selecting college is a very complicated task. There's lots to choose from. I think broadly speaking, there are, when you're applying to Oxford, the thing to know is that typically you are applying to a college within Oxford and not to the whole, university as a whole. So there is an important decision to be made there. And, there are large colleges, mid-sized colleges, small colleges. Each college has, different vibes, etc. So as you get into this process, it's something that you may want to think about a bit more. Let's go back to the basic application process, though. I mean, it's all a bit overwhelming as you kind of try to figure all of this out. I mean, UCAS forms, etc., and then Oxford specifically. Nuthara, if I can come back to you, as you were starting your application for Oxford, what were the things that you had to do?
I had to write a personal statement, and that took me a while because I was so focused on making sure every sentence was perfect because I really wanted to get in. And I had to register for the admissions test and get transcripts and recommendations from my school. And I had to study for A-levels because I needed A-level results to get in. And even though the exams were late.
And can you tell us a little bit about the personal statement? Like, what are the components of a good personal statement in your experience?
Yeah, it's been almost a year, so I'm not sure I'm remembering it exactly right. Personal statement, it's supposed to describe yourself and why you pick that particular subject to study, and also why you want to study at Oxford, and for an international student, why you want to study in the UK. Those are the points I went with.
Got it. And how did you get advice for filling that out? Because like you said, it's, it can seem quite daunting to summarize all of that into, one set of, one written note. How did you go about this? Did you just do this on your own? Did you seek some advice from people?
Yeah, I got advice from a range of people actually. My school counselor is on top. Then a friend of a friend who goes to London School of Economics, he helped me out a little bit with like the tone because I wasn't used to the tone. And there are lots of good personal statements on the internet that I used to like know what kind of things I should be saying that they're looking for.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. Nishan, do you want to tell us a little bit about your, how you went about tackling this personal statement?
Yeah, so the way I tackled my personal statement was I started with a story, a personal story, and sort of tied in with that with engineering and why my sort of passion in engineering lies through that story. Then I sort of listed down a few things I did and sort of try to show that there's a connection between my passion in engineering and what I'm like currently doing, different projects, books I read, etc. And for the final sort of paragraph, what I said was what my future ambitions are. So by having Oxford degree, what can I actually achieve and sort of what sort of change I can do. So that's how I sort of structured my personal statement.
Got it. And given that I suspect there's a few people on this call that are thinking about engineering because it seems to be a more popular program, are you comfortable to share with us what your personal story was on the application? See if people can relate to that or figure out their own personal story.
Yeah, I actually wrote about sort of a science fair I did, which science fair project it was about growth promoters. So it was sort of a biology related project, but the way I sort of spinned it as engineering was I said I had to
I think you might have lost Nishan there. Until he comes back, maybe Shatuki, can I switch over to you and maybe if you could tell us a bit about your experience. I guess this personal statement really is a critical part. I mean, your grades are important, but almost all the offers that come out are like a 3A or 3A star kind of offer. So everyone sort of ends up with broadly the same kind of scores. But this personal statement is clearly an important part of this, as is the interview. But can you tell us a bit about your personal statement experience?
Yeah, so I think Nishan covered it quite well, but the personal statement was like super important to me because I actually didn't have an admissions test. For biology, they don't have one, and I think another is maybe geology, but so a lot actually relied on my personal statement. But I also started with like where my passion for biology began, and I kind of linked it to, I guess, a little bit of a personal story of like it starting here when I grew up in Sri Lanka, and then like being around a lot of biodiversity, and then I linked it to my subjects as well. And I think a big thing that my school like advises or like that told me about Oxford personal statement specifically was that it kind of has to be a little bit academic heavy. So like books you read is a good thing, and in the interviews they might ask you about it. So like I think the main aim is to kind of like show that you went out of your way to pursue the love for your subject. So an example is the books, and I also talked about my work experience. I did some work experience in like a nature center, a conservation park, so I talked about that and how that linked to why I started to like it and build my skills from it as well. And yeah, I ended with also what Nishan said, what I want to do in the future. So yeah, I think that's kind of a good outline. And also what Nuthara said about the that you can find loads of example ones in online specifically for your subject as well. And I also went to my biology teachers specifically in school to see what they thought about my personal statement. And it's normal to get through a lot of drafts, so like don't be intimidated with like by starting it first, like that doesn't have to be the final copy. So just like jot your ideas down and then kind of start to build it like that. Like it's a process, you don't get it done by sitting down for like 2 hours. So yeah, that's what I about starting it.
How long did it take you from start to finish, out of curiosity?
Oh gosh, I think I started it during my AS summer. So yeah, like I started it right as I finished my AS levels, and then kind of because the deadline was in October, so I kind of just like built it through the whole summer, and then right when school started again in September, I got it done for October. So a long time, but also it doesn't like I was pretty stressed about it, but also there's admissions test and other stuff that you can excel in. But yeah, it's important though, so take your time with it, I'd say.
Okay, make sure you have enough time for it. Yeah, Nishan, I see you're back. I want to come back to your story because I feel like, again, it's something that I think many people will be able to relate to. So do you want to, you're on mute again, so if you want to pick up where you left off.
Yeah, sorry, there was a power outage. So the way I started my personal statement was I did a science fair, which was a biology project. The way I sort of linked it with engineering was I said, I described how I made my own shakers and sort of centrifuges myself for the project. So I linked sort of the skills, engineering skills I learned there, and sort of described, this is the way I did it. And this sort of gave me certain skills, like, I know, understanding about these physical principles. Then I sort of took a few books that I read. There were a few papers on something related like communication with satellites. And I sort of, I was like really curious about that at that time. So I talked a bit about that. And then I went to a sort of a personal story about a relative who has sort of neurodegenerative disease. And I sort of, at that time, I was interested in a little bit about machine learning. And I was doing a project about sort of using machine learning to sort of like categorize early diagnostic signs of neurodegenerative diseases. So I sort of linked that personal story about that relative with the project I'm doing in my personal statement. And I also included a thing that I did in school in the media club, which was sort of a digital audio signal processing. So I, said I did this in school and linked that in as well. And at last, I sort of said something that I was like passionate about, sort of relating to sort of waste management and how it's sort of, the skills I would gain from having Oxford degree would sort of help me to sort of, start a social enterprise, sort of a startup, sort of social entrepreneurial startup, which sort of would, help me sort of create a positive impact in Sri Lanka. And yeah, that's how I.
So you linked it back to Sri Lanka as well.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Nithara, if I can come back to you, when you did your application, did you go to Oxford for an interview as well as part of the process?
Not physically. I had an 3 online interviews.
Got it, got it. Okay. And actually interesting then, how was that experience of doing the interview online?
Well, first of all, it was a little weird because, I mean, I would have liked it to be physical, but with COVID and all, they were definitely not doing that. And like, you're supposed in the computer science interviews, they give you a problem and you're supposed to solve it then and there and show them the working and everything. So showing the working on the screen, like we had to share a document and I had to write the working on the document. And I remember it went into a total mess because my handwriting on the touchpad was terrible and they couldn't read it. And so that went a little off, but it worked out in the end that I managed to get them the working. It would have been better physically, but I don't think it was a total failure online because we could still communicate pretty well and like we could share documents a little better. So it was still the most interesting interviews I've ever had.
And you said you had 3 interviews. Who were the 3 interviews with?
2 from University College and 1 from Pembroke College.
And were they sort of broadly along the same lines, or were they sort of very different interviews in terms of what they focused on?
like each interview had like 2 problem sets for me to solve, and like the problems were all along the same line, like analytical, like the kind you find in a mathematical Olympiad. The interviewers were very different in their personalities, but they were all like very forward and open. So I enjoyed all.
And were these problems that you had already sort of seen before as part of your schoolwork, or this was something completely new to you? Okay, maybe Nutara has had a power cut as well. Let's go to Shatuki. Shatuki, your interview, was that similar to what Nitara was saying, was very focused on solving a problem and you were given a problem and asked to solve it, or was it quite different? And how many interviews did you have?
It was actually quite different, I think. So I think that goes to show how different the different subjects, kind of the interview process is with the different subjects. But for me, it was actually the final year, it was in person. So this was December 2019 when I did my interviews, which seems like a really long time ago. But for biology, I think they kind of just, they show us a lot of graphs, and it's a lot of analyzing graphs, and they kind of also show you, they could potentially show you like an organism or a plant or something like that, and then kind of get you to start thinking about like what one organ might do, or how the different, you know, plant or animal live, or how they reproduce, whatever. And yeah, it's from the final question you asked, it's like it's something that I've not seen before at all or come across. Which kind of goes to show, I think, a little bit of the fact that you can't really study for it per se, because it's not following your course or whatever that you do at school. It's kind of testing your thinking style and flexibility, like with a problem that's been given to you, which kind of goes, like, it kind of links to the tutorial system, which I'm sure we'll come to in a minute, or like, but it's kind of the way you learn at Oxford for every subject, which is in small groups, and then you discuss like your essay or a problem, and then that like that kind of involves you thinking about and like kind of like discussing it and openly talking about it, even if you don't know like anything about it. So I think, and it's meant to be hard, so you can't expect to go in like know everything. It's, and I know most of my friends who's gone in and say it was a complete disaster and they still end up getting in, so you really don't know how you do. But I think it's just speaking your thoughts, and when something gets presented to you, just like, you know, talking through what you're, and then the tutors will bounce off you and then kind of be like, yeah, this is right, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, and then they'll also kind of lead you. It's not kind of a trap or anything, so they want you to kind of enjoy the process. So yeah.
Would it be fair to say, I mean, I remember this from my interview experience, it's almost like they give you a problem that you're not familiar with, and rather than getting to the right answer, which in science is almost you're trained to try and say, oh, there's a right answer, I must get to that right answer. Rather, it's the process of thinking that they take you through and how you take guidance through that process that they're interested in, and not so much whether you get to the right answer or not.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, in real world science, I guess that's kind of a more productive way of also thinking about a question, and that's how you come up with innovative ideas rather than getting to one answer. But yeah, it kind of trains you to, and then the tutors kind of want to see whether you're engaging and you're passionate about it as well, like, which kind of comes out during interviews, and they have to also like you to the point that, I mean, you know, they don't have to be your biggest fans, but they want to know that they can teach you, and that's what they're looking for, that they want you in their college and they're going to teach you. So they want to see that you can think through things, and even if it's hard, that even with a little bit of help from them, you can get to the right answer. And also, you don't have to get to the right answer, because my first interview, I was so confused, like the graphs, I was just not getting it, and then she was just like, don't worry, it's meant to be hard. But yeah, so I didn't get to the answer for my first interview, and I still got in, so it's fine.
Got it. Excellent. Look, I want to spend a couple of minutes on just life at Oxford, and maybe if you could start with, just your first impressions. Nishan, if I can go to you, and when you got to Oxford, what was the most striking thing for you as you first arrived there?
I mean, arriving to Brasenose, I was actually, struck by the view. You have this, you have the Radcliffe camera sort of, when you go into Brasenose and just look at the Radcliffe camera, it's just amazing. Sort of like, wow, this is the best view I've ever seen. Yeah, it was such a surreal moment.
The Radcliffe camera is one of the most iconic buildings in Oxford. It's right in the heart of Oxford, and it's just outside Brasenose College. So it is a pretty impressive or inspiring kind of building.
Yeah, and I was genuine, and the other thing I really liked, I guess, about Brasenose was how friendly people were. As I came in, everyone was so welcoming. They sort of showed me around sort of hall. They showed me around, all the places in college, and they showed me to my room as well, which I really enjoyed a lot. And then Freshers Week. So for us, because it was COVID, Freshers Week was a bit different. Things are online. So it was more calm, a bit more sort of, I guess, low key, but generally Freshers Week is really fun. And I had college parents as well, who sort of gave me a free dinner and sort of gave me guidance on Oxford.
Parents?
Oh, so when you come into college, you're assigned to 2 people from second year who would sort of guide you, mentor you throughout your sort of year as a fresher. One is in your subject at Brasenose, and the other one is in a subject different to you. And you will sort of have college siblings as well who are doing either the subject you're doing or the father is doing. So yeah.
Got it.
And yes.
Sorry, Shatuki, the tutorial system is something that's very peculiar or particular to kind of the Oxford system. How would you describe what the tutorial system is to somebody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this is for every subject, but you have at least once a week, a tutorial once a week, or some subjects have more than that. But for me, for biology, I have one tutorial per week. And it's essentially, so I write an essay for it on top of my lectures, on top of labs and practicals. You have to write an essay, and then your tutor in college. So the tutorials are run by college. So this is not the university department-wise like setup. It's set up within your college. And then there's 7 biologists at Jesus, but then it's split into smaller groups. So we're either in 3s or 2s, or sometimes by myself. I kind of prefer it if it's just me, to be honest. I feel like I can be more engaging and really talk to the tutors, but it's in smaller groups. And you either talk about your essay, talk about a specific area of what you're studying, something from your lectures maybe. But our tutors also focus on some of the research that they're doing. And I feel like it's really intimidating. I found it really intimidating in my first year, I feel like, but now I'm starting to more ease into it now that I finished my second year as well. But it's really, it kind of, I think it's one of my favorite parts of Oxford, because you're talking to this academic who's pioneering in the work that you're so passionate about, and you have them right in front of you, and they're writing papers and books or whatever, and then you can talk about the specific thing that they're doing, and then
how many people are there in the tutorial with you?
So it's the tutor, and for me it's 2 more other people or less than that. And you bounce off each other's ideas, and it's essentially like the interview, but less pressure because it's kind of you're studying through it. But that's what the tutorial system is basically, and you have it once a week, and that is a major part of your degree, I'd say.
Got it. And Nishan, on a lighter note, Shatuki talked about how intimidating this tutorial system can be because you're kind of one-on-one, one-on-two with one of these great minds of Oxford. What's been your most traumatic tutorial experience? Maybe you were much more prepared than I was for tutorials, and so you didn't have one, but I feel like Nishan may be frozen. Shatuki, I'm going to have to direct that question back to you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So like I said, I get really scared for tutorials, so I like do the best I can to prepare for them. But I don't know. The most dramatic, I guess, like when I'm
completely unprepared.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, this isn't when I was prepared necessarily, but I had a tutorial where I had to write an essay, which was one-sided. So it was like an argument kind of thing, like two sides of an argument, almost like a debate. And I had to write an essay on one side, and this was about invasive species, and why using the word invasive species is like invasion biology shouldn't be a thing. And that's what I was writing. And my tutorial partner was late, so it was just me kind of talking. It was just me there with the tutor being like discussing my part of the essay, and she was late. But yeah, I wouldn't say that's really dramatic, but I was kind of talking about my side of the essay without like another person, so it kind of felt incomplete, but she did end up showing up in the end. But yeah, I don't know whether that's like the dramaticness you expected for, but like that's kind of, yeah, that was an odd one.
Definitely had dramatic or maybe more appropriately embarrassing situations at at tutorials.
Yeah.
Excellent. Listen, we're almost at the end of this, the time that we had for the panel discussion. Shatuki, any final word that you want to leave for the group to say, listen, as you think about your experience so far at Oxford and, versus what you anticipated when you applied and were accepted, what has been the most kind of exciting or most kind of comforting, or what would you sort of want to leave with the panel or with the audience rather, in terms of why they should think about applying to Oxford?
Yeah, I mean, I guess less comforting, but like the fact that I knew it was going to be hard, but that it was like so much harder than I expected it to be. Like I think a big thing is choosing your subject and choosing something that you really love. Because also, sorry, is there someone that's mute?
No, I think someone's off mute. Okay, no, that's okay. Carry on. Yeah,
okay. I think loving my subject was a big thing, and you spend so many hours of your terms doing this subject, and it can get too much sometimes. So I think a big thing is really loving your subject and kind of, yeah, and knowing that it's meant to be hard and challenging, and learning to take criticism, because I feel like in school, and I feel like most people that are considering applying to Oxford are already super smart and will be the top of their class in school, but when you get to Oxford, it's just so many other people like you, which is kind of intimidating and scary. And you'll get you always won't be, your teachers won't be praising you all that. It won't be the same. Your tutors will tell you when you've done something wrong or your essays aren't amazing, and that's okay. And also I think one amazing thing about Oxford is that you're surrounded by so many smart people, and you just should feel great. Like I just feel grateful that I'm there with all these other 2% of the world or country of all these smart people that you, and it's like an opportunity that discuss idea and share the love for your subject.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's.
I thought you were going to talk about the joys of riding a bicycle down the Oxford narrow cobbled streets.
Oh well, yeah. Hey, no, actually, that too. Yeah, riding bicycles, I feel, and it's coming back in Sri Lanka. So I mean, I feel like it's kind of a throwback to Oxford when I'm here and fixing my bike now. But yeah, no, riding your bike around Oxford is also really nice. I'm sorry, I think my answer is serious.
Excellent. Nishan, a final word for you in terms of anything you want to leave the audience with for sort of what you would say is most exciting about your experience at Oxford. You're on mute again.
I mean, Oxford is such a nice experience. It's so intellectually stimulating. You're always around these smart people who are always encouraging you, motivating you, who are really passionate in the field that you're also passionate about. And there's this atmosphere where you can, like walking around the quads, you just can talk to someone about what you're passionate about. And there's this environment of sort of people accepting your ideas and sometimes, criticizing you, and sort of you get this sort of environment where you're continuously refining your ideas. And I guess that's something that's really special about Oxford, and definitely apply to Oxford. Just don't shy away from it. Give it a chance. The admissions, rate was safe, but if you don't apply your chance, and I guess
Nishan, I think we're losing.
Believe in yourself.
Excellent. All right, Nishan, unfortunately, I think we're losing you a little bit. I think the positive note that I caught at the end there was really, if you don't apply, you won't know. And whilst it's a daunting, perhaps, aspect, you already heard from Nitara earlier about
the admissions test, and prepare for the interview. You'll definitely have a good chance of getting into Oxford.
Excellent. Sorry, we kind of lost a little bit of that, Nishan, but I think part of what Nishan was trying to say was also, it's something of a daunting process, but really well worth the effort if you actually if you get through it. And we heard from Nitara as well, a really inspiring story about somebody who didn't really know about this process and was made aware through this session last year, and then took it upon herself to kind of take the leap of faith or the risk to embark on this journey. And really excited that someone like that's been able to get through this process and hopefully experience all the things that Shatuki and Nishan were talking about once she gets there. Look, with that, I want to pass. Thank you very much, Nishan and Shatuki. Unfortunately, Nitara couldn't get back on. She's also having a power cut. So we'll sort of hopefully get her back by the time we have the breakouts. I want to introduce at this point James Brown from the University of Oxford. James honestly has been a force for us in doing these events. Even last year when we reached out and said we'd like to do this, he immediately jumped on it and was incredibly supportive. He is the head of international recruiting for the University of Oxford, so I'm sure he gets many of these such requests. James, really, very, very grateful and thankful that you made time for us again this year. And I will turn it over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much, Iran, and thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it was great to hear the views and insights from the students there. Obviously, the experts, if you like, as you're actually studying there. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen just to get up the presentation. So hopefully you can see that, and I will put it like that, and hopefully all will be well. Is that Can you see that okay?
Yep.
If you can, yep, lovely. Okay, so that's me. We can skip that slide. So what I'm going to do is give just a brief intro to Oxford, then we'll move on to some of the applying things that we discussed earlier, and just reiterate some of those. But I just want to give you a bit more of a sort of context as well about Oxford. So world-leading institution for centuries. It has been so. The oldest university in the English-speaking world, supposedly. Records are a bit sketchy, go back so far, but we're pretty sure that, that's the case. And to this day, we are obviously ranked extremely highly, ranked #1 in the world for 6 years running, according to Times Higher Education. More importantly, perhaps, the sort of way in which we work, our really at the heart of what we do is groundbreaking research. Oxford is a research university. The research by our staff, our students, our graduates really does touch the lives of people all over the world. So looking at issues such as AI, global research into climate change, energy, food, water waste, biodiversity. So things that really, regardless of where you live, where you come from, these are issues which impact us all hugely. And of course, more recent times, we've been at the forefront of providing and researching into and rolling out quite quickly the vaccine for coronavirus, of course, a hugely sort of important element that has obviously really, again, impacted hugely around the world, not just here in the United Kingdom. It's a worldwide university. We have over 230 graduates living and working all over the globe. I mean, you've seen obviously your students from your home country there, but we have students literally from all over the world. And the university itself really does thrive on these connections. You may have come across the Oxford University Press. It's the largest university press in the whole world as well, with representation all over the world. And yes, it's not just about the sort of Oxford and college campuses that you find around Oxford in the UK. It really is a global institution in that regard. At Oxford itself, the learning resources that we offer you are second to none. You may have heard of the Bodleian Libraries, some of the best libraries you'll find in the world. Most awe-inspiring places to study. I was earlier this week, I was having a nice tour of some of the libraries. They are incredible, they really are. We have 4 museums as well, which hold over 8.5 million objects, and our laboratories are just wonderful too. And we are continuing to invest in our scientific resources, which includes already the largest magnetic resonance facilities, and as you can see here, one of the best equipped mass spectrometry labs in the UK. So incredible resources, always growing too. That's something which you'll find as an Oxford student. Another thing you'll find is that the opportunities you have throughout your life after having been a student at Oxford are incredibly exciting. They really are what we give you as an impressive skill set, which is sought after by many, many employers in different industries, different sectors, and of course, right across the world. Many of our students go on to study at higher levels as well, masters, PhD levels, go into academia. So this is something which is quite common for Oxford students as well. But what I really should say to you is that there is no one typical experience for an Oxford student. Oxford very much is what you make it. We'll offer you a world-class education, of course, incredible resources and facilities, as we've touched upon. But actually, there is no one experience. There's no single Oxford experience. And there is no single type of student. And I think that that's really important for you guys to be aware of. And actually, you know, Shatuki and the other students there did touch on this, I think, and that actually, you know, you may have a sort of concern or fear about making an application because you think there's a certain type that makes it to Oxford. This is not actually the case. I would say the one thing that our students share is a motivation and talent for studying. That is the one thing that our students share. But beyond that, all our students are incredibly individual and diverse. And it's a real melting pot in that regard. So it's a wonderful place to be also for that. Let's turn our attentions to the applying. It is a bit different applying to Oxford than it is to other UK universities. There are more stages to it. And again, obviously the student panelists were able to talk to this. You apply approximately a year before the start of the course. So you apply by the 15th of October to Oxford, and you come and study with us the following. If you are given an offer and everything works out, you come and study with us the year after. So the term starts generally at the beginning of October. So applying a year in advance, and you apply through UCAS, the University College Admission Service. That's a nationwide organization in the United Kingdom. And you apply to all universities at undergraduate level in the UK through UCAS. On that form, you apply to 5 universities. So essentially you choose your very top pick, your aspirational pick, and then you kind of make your way down into a second university that you would equally be just as happy to study in, and then go that way. The best thing to do is have a range of universities that have a range of entry requirements should you not quite get the grades that you had anticipated. Okay, so applying to study at Oxford, we're going to talk about the application timeline, but one of the most important things for you guys, I think, to be thinking about is that it's really important to choose subjects for studying that you really love, that you feel passionate about. That's a really integral part also being successful with your application. Yes, we'll give you the fantastic opportunities once you get to study with us, but what we're looking for, of course, are students who are already deeply passionate about their subject. Okay, so that's something really important to bear in mind. What we will do once you are studying with us is we will help develop your thinking. We will help you to develop your ideas, think deeply for yourself, to be able to articulate your thoughts. And this is what is central to this is, of course, our tutorial system, which was touched on earlier. And our tutorial system is a really quite a unique thing. Very few universities in the world offer that intensity of academic I'd say sort of the depth of the academic contact you have with tutors. Tutorials tend to be 2 or 3 students maximum, and there's really nowhere to hide. I think that was touched upon also, but wonderful opportunities for you to really hone your skills and develop your thinking. So that's one of the things that makes Oxford such a special place to be. Let's have a look at the timeline of applying to Oxford. Okay, so several steps to the application process. Firstly, choosing your course, and we'll go into each of these steps in more detail so you're familiar with each of them. First thing you must do is choose your course, okay? Second thing is to choose a college or make an open application. There was a lot of discussion about choosing a college. I'm going to go quite contrary to some of that advice and say it's not really that important. As I think it was Shatuki mentioned, whichever college you end up in, you will love it. Every single student in every single college loves their college. They think it's the best college. They think it's far better than all the others. So it doesn't really, I mean, there's actually more similar about colleges than it's different. So don't get too hung up on the college side of things, because it's absolutely okay, as one of the panelists mentioned, to make an open application and just be assigned a college. And there's no advantage or disadvantage to either way, okay? So the UCAS application must be submitted to us by the 15th of October. Admissions tests, which actually are for most courses, not biology as mentioned, but the majority of our courses do require you to take admissions tests. You have to register for these admissions tests by the 30th of September this year. It's a little bit earlier than usual. So register by the 30th of September and you take your test locally in Sri Lanka in early November. Written work is required for some courses, not many, just 1 or 2, and that has to be submitted to the college administering your application by the 10th of November. And all students who are shortlisted will be interviewed online in December. All our interviews this year are online, and you'll get your decision by early to mid-January, which is actually the time in which most other universities' application deadline is. So you'll have heard from Oxford by the time you'll be making that application to other universities. And then the final stage are your results. Hopefully you get the results that you need in order for your conditional offer to be turned into an unconditional offer. Okay, so that's each stage. Let's go into each of those. We've got the time to do that. So choosing a course, most important decision that you will make when applying to Oxford is selecting which course to study. You have to bear in mind, you're going to be spending 3 to 4 years, and in the case of medicine, even longer, studying this, immersed in your subject, actually really living your subject day to day. And so your years with us are much more likely to be enjoyable if you are deeply passionate and genuinely love your course that you're learning about. We have around 50 different course options that you can choose. And we'll talk a little bit about the popular course choices next. But please be open-minded when you're thinking about course choice, okay? Yes, a lot of students apply for a favorite subject, something that they've studied at school that they've really enjoyed. And that's great, that's fine if you want to extend your learning and knowledge about that subject. But please bear in mind that the content and structure of the course may be very different to what you experienced at school. You can combine 2 or even 3 subjects. We have a wide range of combined, of joint courses, which explore the different subjects and examine the connections between them. So these can be really interesting, and it gives you the opportunity to maybe do a subject which you're already familiar with, and then combining it with something you're less familiar with, but you're interested in. Or you could just try something completely new. Courses such as human sciences, material sciences, biochemistry, archaeology, and anthropology. Obviously, these are courses which are very unlikely to have studied at school, and offering you the perfect opportunity, really, to delve in deeper to maybe something which you may have sort of studied a little bit, but you're taking in a different direction, a different branch of that. So be open-minded. We've got nearly 50 courses. And one final piece of advice on this is make sure the course is right for you. Yes, I'm sure your friends and your parents and your relatives have lots of advice about what will be good for you, but the the best way of choosing what's good for you is really think about it yourself and make the decision yourself. Okay, so that's an important tip for you. All right, another tip for you is you don't necessarily have to go for the most popular courses. You can see here for international students, philosophy, politics, and economics is the most popular, followed by econ management, mathematics, law, medicine. Now, you can imagine being the most popular courses, it means they are the most competitive courses. There are 45 other degrees pretty much or 44 at Oxford. So bear that in mind. You know, it may not be the best thing to apply for the most popular courses. For example, we had over 3,000 applications for medicine in that same period, where we had around 1,000 for biomedical sciences. We had over 6,000 applications for PPE in that same period, whereas we only had 300 applications for history and economics. So, and these are international students. So, you know, bear that in mind. It could be also just quite a positively pragmatic thing to do to apply for a course that attracts less applications too. Okay, once you've decided on your course, the next thing you should do is make sure you've met or are on target to meet the admissions requirements. Some of our courses require subject-specific requirements, so please check these. And you can see there the A-level and International Baccalaureate grades that we're looking for, and they range course to course. You must meet the entry requirements, okay? So if you are below that level, then frankly, it would be a wasted choice on your UCAS form to apply to Oxford if you fall below the requirement for your course. Sorry, I should mention, we do accept many other qualifications. It's not just A-level and IB, we accept many others. So if you do come with other qualifications, you can look at our international qualifications pages there. English language requirements, all undergraduate applicants must have evidence of their English language abilities, but you don't need to submit this at the point of application. Okay, so this can come after your application, as long as you have it before you come and study with us. And I've shown you the IELTS and TOEFL grades there of most courses. We accept many other English language qualifications too. Okay, UCAS application. Now, this is something which we have talked about, or that the student panelists have talked about a bit here, and given their insights, which are really, really valuable. A few things I should say, really, is that there are several parts of the UCAS form to complete, but this is the most important one. As I think, as some of the panelists were mentioning, take your time to plan it. It's the first opportunity that our tutors will have to meet you, essentially, although they'll be meeting you on paper. So generally take your time on this. Take the summer before applying to really draft, redraft, get other people to read it. The main piece of advice from me is these must be your words. This must be a true reflection of yourself and your academic self. Okay, we recommend that 80% of the statement should be academically focused, and this includes supercurricular. I'll explain what that is shortly. And only 20% on your extracurricular activities. Frankly, our tutors are not very interested in your extracurricular activities. So talk to us about the academic side of things. When we say supercurricular, it's what some of the panelists referred to as the exploration of your subject beyond your school studies. We do want students who demonstrate those qualities. So tell us about why you want to study the course, how it links to your current studies, the outside exploration, the supercurricular, the books you've read, the things you've watched, listened to, visited, formed an opinion on. Any relevant work experience, but please be aware you do not have to have work experience. And then any extracurricular activities that you want to add in there. Plenty of guidance on our website about the statement. I'm going to send links to Hiran and Rishan to share with you all after this session to point you in the right direction as well. So what we're looking for, our tutors are looking for students who are truly committed to their subject, who show a passion for their subject, who go beyond their schoolwork. If you love your subject, you're going to be reading about it or listening to podcasts about it or watching videos about it, that's for sure. You'll certainly be thinking about it. So tutors are looking to try and understand what has motivated you to apply for your course. So yeah, this is very important, and be authentic. Try to avoid writing a personal statement that's ticking off a list. There's no checklist of required achievements. And actually, they really want to understand what has motivated you academically. Okay, whoops, skip past that one, apologies. Admissions tests. Now, the majority of our courses require you to take an admissions test, but not all, but do check. And throughout this presentation, you've been able to see links in the top right-hand corner, and these links will take you to the relevant parts of our website. And for tests, that's the best place to go to check whether your course requires you to take a test. Now, our tests are there to help our tutors make a more nuanced decision relating to your application. And it also allows them to compare students, because every single student will take the same test regardless of where they sit that test for that particular course. So it's a really useful piece of information for us. It's also your responsibility to ensure that you're registered for that test on time. And remember the deadline of the 30th of September this year. It's possible. Just one or two courses require you to take more than one test, but it's the majority are only one. So three-step process: identify which test you need to take, find a local testing center, and register for that test center by that deadline. And if you don't take the test for any reason, your application will be really will be significantly affected by that. So it is important you get on top of that. We have a brilliant array of resources on our website to help you prepare, and we will be running sessions from September into October, helping you prepare as well. And I'll give you information about how you can join those sessions later on. Interviews, we touched on this too. Lots of myths about interviews at Oxford, but really, actually, and I think Shatuki mentioned this, is that they are replications of tutorials, essentially. So actually, the word interview is a slight misnomer in some ways. They are mock tutorials, really. So what they are discussions about a subject you love with people who also love that subject and know a lot about it. Interviewers are looking for academic potential, your self-motivation, your ability to think independently. And also, I think Hiran mentioned this, how you engage with new ideas. You'll certainly be introduced, they'll ask you a question, almost certainly they'll ask you a question, you respond, and then they'll introduce some new information or a different kind of slant on it and see how you respond to that. So again, we're running sessions on interviews. We'll be running those in October and November, so do come along to those and we'll help you prepare for them. Really, the best way of preparing is to talk out loud about your subject. Talk out loud about your subject to anybody who's listening, or indeed anyone who's not. Doesn't really matter. Talk to your cat, your dog. Really doesn't matter. But just talking out loud about your subject is great preparation. In the interview itself, think out loud. Let the tutor know what you're thinking. It's by far the best way for them to get insights into that, because that's what they're interested in, how you think. They're not necessarily interested particularly in the exact answer you give. In some cases, the exact answers don't actually exist. There are many potential answers. So it's all about the way in which you reason. It's all about the way in which you think and approach the information that is given to you. And above all else, don't worry, enjoy it. Something to be enjoyed. All right, we can help you prepare too. As I mentioned, we will be running sessions, but beyond that, things that you can help yourself with: work hard, achieve the best grades you can, go beyond your schoolwork, search out those super curricular activities and stretch your thinking. We have some great digital resources on our website. We have reading lists as well, and the practice for the test papers and interviews too. And as I say, do come along to our sessions, which will help you. These are the sessions. As you can see there, September, test and written work, and then October and November, we'll be focusing on interviews. Okay, that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I hope that's been useful. Starting point for your research should be our international student pages. You can see there, ox.ac.uk/int for international. You can also chat to our international students, some of our international students as well. Ask them about their experiences. We have an international student chat function on our website now. You can see the links there. Lots of information about applying and courses and interview resources as well available to you. But that's pretty much it from me. Haran, over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, James. James, on a positive note, I want to let everybody know as well that, you know, since last year, there was that staggering statistic that you gave us that only one undergraduate student had been accepted into Oxford from Sri Lanka. And this year, following last year's program, we've had 3 people that have gotten in, which is just absolutely phenomenal. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, and, you know, to the point that you said about, you know, there's no typical student that applies. I hope today's session has really inspired a few of those listening to really think about making their own application.
Absolutely.
So just in summary, you know, I think you're right. We spent a bit of time on college selection. Open applications are absolutely okay if that process is a bit too overwhelming. The personal statements are absolutely critical. Get lots of advice. Look at these things online, but make sure at the end of the day, this is in your own words, and make sure that you give enough time for this, because this is not something you can sit down and do in 2 hours, as I think Shatuki was saying. So make sure you allocate enough time. The other thing was really, I think, sticking to these deadlines and making sure you're aware of all of those things. The one that was a bit surprising for me, which I was maybe not fully aware of, was aware of the October 15th deadline, but I wasn't so aware of the September 30th deadline, which actually is before October 15th.
Yes.
That was pretty critical.
Just this year, I'm afraid it has changed. Next year, it'll probably go back to the 15th of October again. But for this year, 30th September.
Yeah. And then finally, just lots and lots of online resources that are available. We will send out a mail after this with some of those resources summarized, so you can have access to all of that. But yeah, there's lots of help online. And there's one more point of help, which is the next part of this, which we will just go to, which is the breakout Q&A. Before we do that, I just want to launch a quick poll. Last year, we didn't do this to get feedback on how we might be able to improve this session. We wanted to get, it's difficult to get feedback on these sessions, but you can always email us at oussrilanka@gmail.com. But here's a quick poll. If you can, 3 questions. Obviously, the panelists don't necessarily need to respond, but if all the students participating, will give you a couple of minutes. It should have popped up on your screen. It's just a 3-question poll. You can just select your responses. The rating scale is 1 is very useful and 5 is the lowest. So 1 is the highest and 5 is the lowest. Let's give it 1 minute more for people to quickly fill that in. Excellent, thank you for that. All right. Excellent. So really just left for me to say thank you very much again for all our panelists. We're not quite done yet because we've got the breakouts, but we won't come back to this plenary after the breakouts. It's now 5:15 in Colombo. We'll leave the breakouts open for about 20 minutes. There'll be 3 breakout rooms. So breakout room number 1 will be James, who will be there. Breakout 2 has Shatuki, and the 3rd breakout will have Nishen. Again, Shatuki was doing biology, Nishen was doing engineering, in case those were areas of interest, and the application process. Us from the Oxford University Society in Sri Lanka will be in the 4th breakout room if you want to come in there. If there is more than 1 person, I suspect there'll be more than 1 person in some of the breakouts. Please put your hand up. You can do that on the panel, on your Zoom panel, to then be called down before you ask a question. It just makes it easier to manage. So thank you very much once again, and all the best of luck with your applications. All right, I'm opening up the breakout room. So give me 1 second.